I mean, if that hits Big T, forget about fired. You're talking like criminal charges. Welcome to the Kevin Clancy Show. I've been in this game over a decade, and I knew I needed a place where I could run wild on my own solo podcast, where I tell personal stories, I deep dive into conspiracy theories, we rip through the current events of the day, and we do sit-down conversations with the most interesting people on the internet. Make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss an episode. What's up, you mutts? It's another episode of the Kevin Clancy Show. Solo dolo. You got me for another hour, where I'm just going to rip it. We got a few topics to talk about. Breaking news here in the Barstool Sports office as I am about to sit down to do this episode is the big Rico Bosco news, which actually made news. You know, we live in the Barstool bubble here at Barstool HQ, where sometimes we think that everything that goes on here is, you know, world news. And then a lot of times, like, we'll be talking about something, a big topic, some drama, whatever that's going on at Barstool. And then I get out of here and I go meet some friends. I go see my family. And I'm like, you know, have you guys heard about this? And they're like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. Shit that just doesn't reach the masses because we live in this little bubble of Never Never Land where everyone's fucking Peter Pan and Captain Hook. And we're just going to go around and around and around on this fucking circus ride until we're all dead. But every now and then, certain Barstool things break out of the bubble. And usually it's when Dave does something. Usually it's when we make news as far as like business or finance, or if there's a hit piece, that's always important too. But this time it's Rico Bosco trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. If you haven't seen the clip and you're watching on YouTube, we'll play it here. It's Rico Bosco whipping a full can of High Noon at Big T.
I mean, are we going to do something about this?
No, I mean, it didn't hit you. I don't know what we do.
Terry's out of control.
What happened, Big T?
I mean, this fucking psychopath threw a full High Noon can over here. He dented the can. He threw it so hard.
Wow.
If that, I could have had a serious brain injury. I mean, Terrence has lost it. I don't know. How many motherfucking times? Because this one's going right in your fucking face. You understand that? Do you fucking understand? I'll fucking run right through you. You stupid fuck. How many fucking times? How many?
Stop. I mean, we can't. You stop too, bitch. Stop. Everyone stop. Split it up. Everyone stop. Everyone stop.
Am I taking crazy pills? Like, are we
Just shut up for a second. It's not crazy to have everyone just fucking chill out for a second.
I mean, that can was probably going, what, like 40 miles an hour? I mean, he fucking whipped it at him, dude. Over an argument that, you know, it's two guys at work who don't like each other. And I think that's why this has become news. It was trending on Twitter. Rico Bosco and Terrence and High Noons. Anybody who's ever worked anywhere has their work rivalries. When you work somewhere, you can work in the Cubes, you can work in Never Never Land here, you can work in entertainment on movie sets, you can work wherever. And you're going to have a few dynamics that exist anywhere. You're going to have your work husband or your work wife. A term that I fucking hate. Oh, that's my work husband. AKA, that's the guy you want to fuck, but you can't because you're married, right? That's my work wife. It's like, that's the chick you think is hot who you want to fuck in the break room. Those always exist because if you put men and women together in any sort of setting, whether it's a fucking field trip in 7th grade where you finally get to sleep overnight and there's boys and girls, someone's getting a hand job. If it's in college, we all know what happens. In the workforce, it's all the same. You exist in the same place around somebody for enough time, and all of a sudden you find each other attractive. What's that called? The Florence Nightingale effect? Oh, that's different. That's when you're taking care of someone. Close quarter syndrome. That's what I'm looking for. The little close quarter syndrome where all of a sudden, you know, a person who would be like a 6 out of 10, all of a sudden they're looking like an 8.5 to you because you see them every damn day. And you're like, you know what? Not looking bad today. I implore you before you ever do anything with a coworker. I can't even tell you how bad of an idea it is to fuck a coworker. Like, it's the one thing I really never understood, and I've never dabbled in it at all, because even I can't imagine that level of drama. When things go south, when they don't work out, when one person catches feelings and the other one doesn't, and now you've not only fucked up your romantic life, but you fucked up your everyday work life. I just can't wrap my mind around that. But also at the same time, I understand that when you know, it's primal with the body and the heart and the dick and the everything wants, it usually gets. So I get how people succumb to it, but also at the same time, what a bad idea it is. I implore you to tell someone else about like your work wife or work husband, or show someone outside your bubble, because they'll probably be like, dude, this isn't worth it. Like, girl, don't do it. You know, it's just not worth the drama that it's going to bring. But that's a dynamic that exists everywhere. You also have the dynamic between bosses and employees. I don't care if it's the foreman on the construction site, or the head of content here at Barstool, or your manager at the corner office. You will have a boss-employee relationship situation that you fucking hate, where you want to just absolutely burn the place down because of that person. And then that also translates into the work rivalries. You have people at your office that you just fucking despise with all of your heart and soul, people that you just fucking hate. And it can't be your boss, because that's something that's like, you're always going to hate the person who's above you, who's your superior, who's ahead of you on the food chain. This is when you're talking on the same level, and there are people you just fucking hate. I don't really I'm trying to think of somebody I hate here. Other than Jackie, I don't think there's anybody I hate. But there's always the chance of just like someone getting under your fucking skin, and it builds every fucking day. And it does reach the point where you want to fucking strangle that person. You want to throw a punch. You want to absolutely murder them. And the difference between regular people in society and fucking animals is that you stop yourself from doing that. Man, there was this dude at Deloitte. His name was Brett. Man, this guy sucked. He was such an asshole. And it was not only because he was cocky about the dumbest shit. You know, we were fucking working on Excel, and it was like, he was good at Excel. He could finish the spreadsheet faster than someone else, and he thought he was hot shit for that. So he was like peacocking about it. And I was like, dude, ugh. Like, you're out here flexing because of your Excel skills. And I realized, listen, in the Cube Monkey world, that shit plays. You know your hotkeys. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the jungle with the Cube Monkeys, the guy with the fastest hotkeys in Excel, he is top dog. But man, it's like, who fucking cares about this shit? And he was cocky about that, and he was kind of like the Office Space guy. Let me show you my O face. That dude. Because that's another thing that exists. It's almost impossible to imagine when there's movies like Office Space and there's humor out there about the corporate world. I did Cubicle Chronicles and Mail Time for so long, where we point out the human stereotypes that exist in the corporate world. The guy who says, see you next year, when it's December 28th and they're taking off break. The guy who says, did you get your hair cut? Nope, I got all of them cut. Or like, nope, I got my ears lowered. Like, all those dumb fucking things. How do those people still exist? When we make fun of that so much, yet they don't recognize that they're that person. Like, there are movie characters about you. There are people we talk about like, oh, you're the asshole on the conference call who's making the jokes using the corporate buzzwords. It's become an accepted joke, and yet you still are that joke. You have so little self-awareness, you can't even realize you've become that asshole. And so those people exist, and you want to fucking kill them. And what holds you back, what stops you from doing that, is sanity, is having a sane mind, is having, a regular code that normal human beings live by. I'm a rider. I'm a Rico guy. Always have been. Well, no, not always. There was the one time I forced him into retirement. If you'll remember, I forced Rico Bosco into retirement one time because there was a guy who DM'd me every single day for like 190 days straight. It was like the better part of a full calendar year. Every single day he DM'd me and he sent me a clip of his stand-up comedy being like, I'm great for Barstool. And I ignored it because I don't really like people who, it's a fine line when you're trying to get a job here or anywhere where it's kind of like not a formal situation. Here's my resume. Let me get an interview, where it's just like, will you take a shot on me? You know, whether it's here or in other places in entertainment, it's a fine line between like, get yourself out there and be a little unorthodox and stand out, and also being ultra fucking annoying by trying to do just that. So the amount of people we get who are like, I'm fucking funny, I fuck chicks, and I drink a lot, I'd be perfect for Barstool, and I'm going to email you every day until you acknowledge me. It's like, I hate your guts. I will hope the worst things in this world happen to you and only you. So this guy sends it for, seriously, months. And then I finally watch his stand-up, and it was atrocious. It was a crime against humanity, an absolute atrocity that him on stage, that he did this act, that he recorded it, watched it over, thought it was good, and then sent it to me. Again, the level of awareness, just absolutely insane to think that this was good. And anyway, I finally told that story. I said, like, can you believe this fucking psychopath who's been sending me this comedy for like a year straight? This guy sucks. And Nate chimed in and said something like, wow, I can't believe Rico Bosco would do that. Just like a very casual, I think that's what happened. Don't hold me to it. But a very surface joke where I was like, look at this asshole. And then Nate was making the joke being like, I can't believe that's Rico. Just being like, Rico's an asshole too. Very, very blasé, just like normal busting balls Twitter interaction. And Rico Bosco retired. Not only from Barstool, but I think the internet. We forced him into retirement because he came back. I can't even remember all the details. Let me see if I can figure it out. But he came at me, I think, kind of being like over the top, angry. And I was like, I don't play this shit, man. I don't fuck around like this. Like, I'm not the one to like say this shit to. I don't give a fuck. And we had our beef. We kind of went back and forth. And he retired via internet, via iPhone Note. Let me see. I'm trying to find my tweets here. Rico Bosco, biggest coward on the internet. He just retired again. I guess this was a time that me and him argued on Barstool Radio. I don't even remember this. I've retired Rico Bosco so many times I don't even remember it. This was back in 2017. I murdered him on Barstool Radio, apparently. So this is the blog from 2016, July 2016. This is written by Dave. For the people now following the Rico Bosco versus Nate and KFC saga, it finally reached its breaking point last night. Rico Bosco has retired effectively immediately from Barstool Sports, or until KFC and Nate both apologize to him for spreading vicious lies. Well, who is Rico Bosco, you ask? This is for some people who may not know. Rico has since 2016 made his presence felt, but if you don't know, Rico Bosco has been a recurring character at Barstool for the better part of 2 years. Now, at this point, the better part of 10 years. He's our resident gambling expert. He joined Big Cat and I on our college football. He's a lover of fine food, fine movies, and going to DJs. He's an absolute fucking meathead. So here's what happened. Okay, as I described, this dude sent this was the DMs over and over and over and over again. Hey, KFC, I'm wondering if you ever watched the tape I sent you. Hey, KFC, I was wondering if I ever watched the tape I sent you. Hey, KFC, I'm wondering if you ever watched the tape I sent you. Not even, like, polite, just that same thing over and over again. And I said, my DMs since March with this dude who wants a job to work for Barstool. Spoiler alert, this doesn't work. Nate said, sorry, Rico Bosco. That's it. It was even less than I thought it was. I just said, here's this asshole who wants to work for Barstool. It's not going to work. And Nate says, Nah, sorry, Rico. Because it's funny, because Rico was always a fringe character and wanted to work here and then never did. And so Nate just says, sorry, Rico. So Nate says, one, not true. Two, not warranted. And three, a quick way to be deaded forever. Tough road ahead, pal. You watch. However, instead of apologizing, Nate and KFC continued to spread lies and innuendo about him. They continued to taunt him. They continued to tear down the one thing Rico Bosco has in this world, his name/internet alias. He says, my name is my honor. Do not drag it through the mud. They lied and won't apologize. Immediately, Stoolies picked sides. The Rico riders started with the hashtag I stand with Rico movement. Hank said, not cool, Nathaniel. Welcome to the Terror Dome. Then Nate went to WWE on Sunday night and made a mockery of the entire situation. He taunted Rico on national TV. I forgot about this. Nate goes to WWE says, no, Rico, I won't watch your tape. And another one that said, R.I.P. Rico. Nate had the entire country questioning Nate had the entire country questioning Rico's credibility and honor. Rico's response came yesterday with his formal retirement. Now, again, this is 2016. This is happening. Just to today, where we get another Rico fiasco where he's throwing cans at people. But this is back in 2016. Rico's retirement via iPhone note. He tweeted and said, like or dislike, I've never discredited someone to establish my own existence. Can't say the same for others. Final notes. 1, it takes an indescribable lack of self-esteem to have front row seats to your favorite puppet show / soap opera, aka wrestling, and still feel a need to attempt to prove to people you're not the weakest man in the arena. 2, I've learned in my life the hard thing and the right thing are often the same. I've also learned some people are too weak to apologize, which is how this all started. I was blatantly made a point of a lie, asked for an apology, and wasn't given one. Haven't thrown a blow since. That's not dead. That's called the high road. I hope 2 individuals join me by apologizing. If not, I pray for their hearts, for they are clearly black, but I will not interact with anyone of their company until so. I will finish my 2 columns that he was sponsored by, out of loyalty to Lewis, Big Cat, and Hank. But until apologized to, I have no interest in pursuing opportunities. I'm confident in my ways and my picks this fall, but mostly I'm confident that the truth shall set you free. Nobody ever said that Rico Bosco wasn't a showman, okay? There's a reason why he's got the nickname Rico Bosco. There's a reason why he used to call into Mike Francesa and get in fights with the sports pope. He is unequivocally one of the most dramatic and insane individuals you'll ever come across. But this kind of stuff, I always got a kick out of. Because it bordered right on the fringe of like, oh, this dude's definitely means it. He's very serious. He feels like he was dishonored. But also you can tell by his language and his over the top, like the truth shall set you free. You can tell that he's playing into it a little, you know? On a very real note, as a friend of Rico, like you know what part is shtick and you know what part is real, and you know that he riles the people up. He blocks you on purpose to have 5,000 people blocked on Twitter so that it becomes a thing. He does the DJ's shit. He gets you riled up on Barstool Radio. He knows how to get the crowd going. It's provocative. It gets the people going. But over the past, few weeks, months, years, it's starting to take this turn where he's just a fucking lunatic when he's storming out of the streams and he's screaming at people. And it was all over his identity. You're not supposed to reveal Rico Bosco's identity, okay? And I respect that on the internet. I try to respect that. On the internet, there's 2 types of people. There are the people who use their real name and let it all out, put their cards on the table, don't hide anything. And they're the people who have aliases and shticks and characters and nicknames and all that stuff. Both are fine. Both people can survive on the internet and thrive on the internet. I personally do believe there's a little more to it when you are yourself and you lay it all out there. I like knowing the real person, not the persona. I like knowing the actual takes, not the made-up takes, all that kind of stuff. Rico was doing what I originally did. I can't knock a guy who has an alias to try to continue to have a real job. I went by my initials, KFC. I didn't even come up with that much of a moniker. I wanted to go by Colonel. People called me the Colonel because of KFC. Dave was Presidente. I was going to write under the Colonel. He said he didn't like that, so we just did the initials KFC. I did that because I don't want people to know my real name to jeopardize my job and my benefits. Rico was doing the same thing. He had a job with good benefits that he didn't. That's why he was always part-time. But recently, decides to go full-time. So now I don't understand why we can't have the name out there. So every time someone brings up his name, he got increasingly more and more mad. It used to kind of be, you say my name again, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be on this stream. And sometimes people would say it and he would get up and leave. And then you say my name again, I'm not working here. Gets up, fucking throwing things, smashing things, and leaves. And it was like, oh, that was a little more fucking crazy. That was a little nuts. And escalating to throwing around fucking microphones and kicking them and screaming. And it was always specifically with Big T. Big T always pushed his buttons by very condescendingly saying his first name. Very like, father, son almost. Like, good morning. And he would drop his first name. And, I mean, this has been brewing for a long time. Big T is definitely instigating. But that's what we do here at Barstool Sports. We pick fights. We fuck around. We bust balls. There's enemies. There's some things that are for the camera rivalries. And then there are some things that are real rivalries. This is a real one. And Rico decides to whip a full can of High Noon at Big T with a full throw. Like a full cockback. Shoom, whips right by his face. We're talking a sealed can, which is basically like throwing a fucking brick at someone's head. I know a girl at Fordham who got hit in the face with a full can of beer. Took a natty light right to the dome. Right to the face. I'm pretty sure she lost her eye. It's either she lost her eye or she went blind in one eye. This was someone throwing it up in the air. So it was like, which I'm sure has some speed coming down. Bam, hits you out of nowhere. You're not even braced for it. That was bad enough. This was like right at your face as hard as you can fucking throw. That is the behavior of an off the fucking rails person. Like I said, I've always kind of been like, I like Rico. I get when he's trumping it up. I definitely think he's a little unhinged and dramatic, but he's a good guy, And then this happens. For a guy who talks about honor and some things are bigger than sports and doing the right thing and the hard thing and all that shit, almost decapitating someone with a fucking weapon is insanity. Like, no jokes, nothing funny about it. That's not cool. That's the behavior of an absolute asshole. And I don't know if an apology has been made yet. I don't know if he said anything. Dave has levied a 1-month suspension. There are places where you're fired immediately for that. I mean, if that hits Big T, forget about fired. You're talking like criminal charges. Big T gets hit in the face like that. He's breaking bones. He's losing vision. He's losing teeth. He's pressing charges. He's suing type shit. I mean, that is crazy to do to somebody. And like whatever recourse came as a result of that, I would be fine with. If you smash someone in the face with a full can because you're having an argument at work, whatever happens, man. That's that's in your hands now. So the suspension is levied, 1 month suspension, mandatory anger management, and he's got to apologize to Big T. Some things, like Rico Bosco says, a real man can own up to his problems. A real man owns up to his mistakes and knows when he's crossed the line and he's fucked up and there's no way out. As a snake until you make it guy, I will ride to the very bitter end where I can deny and push the blame and figure out a way out of it and sweet talk my way out of a situation or pass the buck, push the blame. But when you fucked up, and he is fucked up, there's only one thing to do, and that's just to own it. And I think a man of honor like Rico Bosco should know that. I don't know if he has yet. I don't know if he will. I could see Rico, honestly, you want my real opinion? I could see Rico not coming back. Not as a decision from Barstool. I could see him being like, I can't work here anymore for either his own pride reasons, like fuck these people, I don't want to work here, or he could be like, this isn't good for me, I don't want to be that guy. This is clearly a toxic situation for me. Because the only thing I'll say is like, listen, people are talking about firing him. By the same token, he's trending on Twitter. This is almost good for business. This is the crazy fucking culture we've cultivated here, where it's like, let's drive each other insane to the point where we all want to kill each other. Now, we have always been like cooler heads prevail, where, nobody touches, nobody breaks the rules. I think, there was the one time Devlin and Brandon pushed each other, and I think Dave had said, if anything escalated, like there was strike one, and if anything escalates after that, you're talking about suspension and termination, because you can't, this is La La Land, but it's still the, America, and still we live in reality here where you can't fucking assault people. So we'll see. My honest guess with Rico, I mean, you got bills to pay and you need the money, so I don't think he'll quit, but I wouldn't more than 1 month. I think this is, I don't know. This is a crazy one, even by Barstool standards. That's what I'm saying. This one got outside the Barstool bubble where people are talking about it like crazy Barstool employee. And I'm sure the fucking haters are having a field day with it. Like, look what goes on in this zoo. And it's like, no. This was, look what goes on in the zoo that's inside Rico Bosco's head. That's the only thing. And I got to give a huge shout out to Big T, because he didn't even flinch. He might be crazier than Rico. He went fucking Kobe Bryant, Matt Barnes on him, didn't even flinch with a can whipping past his face. And then Rico gets up in a fit of rage, storming over to him like a silverback gorilla. You know when gorillas run at you, beating their chest, like ready to fight? I mean, you got to imagine, if that's me, someone whips a can at me and then comes at me, I'm thinking to myself, this dude is no longer just interested in talking. He's already thrown a can at me. Now he's charging at me. I probably would have charged back. I probably would have been like, I'm going to hit this guy before he hits me. And Big T just sat there, cool as a cucumber. I don't know whether that's because Big T is a huge motherfucker and knows, like, if he wanted to, when he really was, like, if he gets up and throws his weight around, that it's not going to be a problem for him. I don't know if that he was just frozen because he was so astounded by it, or whether he's just, like, calm under pressure. But to just be like, he was sitting there like, yo, dude, like, calm down when a gorilla's charging at you. And I know you could usually say, like, oh, he knows that Rico's not, like, all talk and, all bark, no bite. But he just tried to bite by throwing the fucking can at you. So you think anyone who's willing to do that is also willing to throw a punch or a grab or a choke or whatever. He just chilled, man. Not a single flinch. Did some Matrix shit and then just sat there. So, either shout out to him for his maturity and or shout out to him for his he's got to screw loose too, because I don't even understand his reaction either. But man, that is one for the fucking record books. And really, at the end of the day, it's hypocritical. You can't be talking about a man of honor and some things are more important and then be the type of guy who, up until this point at Barstool it's one of the biggest black marks in our history. One of the most violent acts, ever. You got to lead by example, Rico. Like the Pope. The Pope is bothering me. The Pope is pissing me off right now. The Pope and and I'm a Pope guy. You know me. Huge Pope guy. Conclave? Conclave is one of my favorite events ever. But when there's a new Pope being chosen, black smoke, white smoke, we narrow it down to the final four. We've got gambling odds. I can't wait to do Conclave with the Barstool Sportsbook. Not that I want anything to happen to Pope Frankie. I hope that he has a long, illustrious career ahead of him. But when the time comes and we do need a new Pope, when we can have odds on the Barstool Sportsbook for new Pope, the pageantry of Conclave, the theatrics, the dramatics, love it all. Love the Pope, hardcore Catholic guy, you know me, diehard religious guy. But the Pope and the Church and the Vatican come out and say, if you live a life with no kids and you get pets, cats and dogs instead of having kids, you are living a selfish life. Now, first of all, fuck off. Obvious fuck off on that one. Because who are you to tell anybody, you're being selfish, you're not living a full life? Because first of all, what about the people who can't have kids? You're going to tell them now that they're not living a full life, and they wouldn't call them selfish in this case because they're not able to. But there's this connotation of like, if you don't have kids, you're not living up to your full potential as a human. It's like there are people out there who can't. So fuck you for even, intimating that. Second of all, look around, Pope. Take a look around, Pope Frankie, at some of the people out here who are parents. I kind of firmly believe that like 10% of the population should have kids. I know that's problematic. Kind of gets into like bad territory of like breeding, like who can and can't based on behavior and shit. Certain guys throughout history have decided things like that. They're known as war criminals and dictators and genocidal maniacs. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying out of all the things we have in this world that you need to be qualified to do, how is it that creating another human that you need to care for, there's nothing for that. There's literally nothing. And I understand it's practical, you can't. But you got to take a test to drive a car. You got to be certain ages to do certain things, go places, drink things, eat things. You've got to, take tests to become this and become that. You got to get scores to get into places. You got to be certain level of intelligence. There's interviews and review processes to be able to attain certain jobs and things in life. But if you want to fuck somebody and leave it in and have a kid, everyone's like, go ahead, more power to you. And then you look around at the amount of people and families that are made from parents that were not fucking ready to now have kids that are not going to be cared for and don't live a good life and are put in dangerous situations and all that. It's like, I think we need fucking less people having kids, not let alone more. At the very least, let's stay flat. We don't need more. We probably should have less. I mean, if you really think about the people who are financially capable of doing it, morally, capable and like able, and the people who want to do it, like for all of the people who want to do it to align with the people who can afford to do it, to align with the people who can do it, who want, it's probably like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people who should be having kids. I feel like there should be a way where, in some dystopian future, they're write a sci-fi book about it. When you're like 16 years old, you got to start, like the government starts watching you. And then by the time you're like 24, they're like, yep, you're a good one. You're allowed to procreate. I understand what I'm saying is we're going down a bad path. Sounds like we're talking about, eugenics here. That's not really what I mean. I'm just saying, boy, I think that we should probably chop down the number of people who are doing it rather than encouraging more people to do it. And thirdly, how hypocritical can you be, Pope? Like, you've never even fucked a chick, dude. You're never going to have kids. You never have to bear that cross. You never have to go down that road. You and your merry band of fucking priests. All your buddies are doing is just fucking little kids. Who are you guys to talk about what you should and shouldn't do with your dicks and your body parts? Pope, like, fuck a girl one time, dude, before you tell me to have kids. Leave it in a chick one time. Go down that road where you got to get the call, hey, I'm late. Until you've gotten the I'm late call, Pope, until you've gotten the I'm pregnant, look at the stick, until you've gotten the, like, holy shit, these kids are so fucking expensive, what am I going to do? Until you've lived that life, don't go telling people they should be popping kids out left and right. It's the ultimate do as I say, not as I do. Pope, you don't even bang people, and you're talking about procreation. The fuck out of here, man. And really, on a serious note, I feel like this is probably, I feel like the generation after mine will be the first generation that feels like they really don't have to have kids. Like, when I was growing up, I was like, I never even thought, like, I have to have kids, because it was just, that's what you do. The same way you have to get a job. I never thought to myself, like, I'm going to be the person who has a job. Because you just do, right? And I thought the same thing about having a family. It's just like, you grow up, you do work, you find somebody, you get stable, you have a family. That was just how it goes. And I think that, you know, in hindsight, unfortunately for me, with my marriage blowing up, it almost took a marriage. It took married life and family life for me to fully understand what married life and family life takes and what it means. And that sucks because, you know, almost every single thing in life, you get to do trial and error. And you get to learn by making mistakes, trial by fire, where it's like, oh, next time I'm not going to do that, you know? And then there's a couple things in life that, you know, society at least asks you to try to do on the first shot. And that's two of those things are primarily getting married and having kids. And having kids is literally physically, you have to just try that, you know? There's no like, I guess you could babysit or nanny or something like that to get a taste of it. But there's no like, you know, there's no trial kids where you get to test it out, do a test run. And I, you know, knowing what I know about myself now, love my kids, absolutely, definitely want to be a father. I would have probably done it at a different time in life. I probably would have done it in a different place. And knowing what I know about marriage is like, I don't know if marriage is in the cards for me. I don't know what I feel about monogamy and relationships and society now. But I only learned all that because I had to go do it and realize that there's a lot of shit that doesn't jive with me. Now, a lot of that was also just my personal situation and the people that we were, and not just the overarching, you know, monogamy, marriage, relationships. But, you know, it's like you have a starter home. I always joked, but like not so joking, like I wish there was a starter marriage, because until you get married, you don't really know, you know? You can live together. I thought living together was enough of a test where it's like, I know what it's going to be like. And I was wrong. Things change when you put a ring on it. Things change when you're officially married. Things change when it's supposed to be forever. And when those changes happened, I was kind of like, whoa, I did not know this was going to be the case. And if I did, I probably would have done things entirely different. But it's too late, because that's just not how we do it. We don't give you that, you know, that's, you have relationships and you learn through those things. And it's like, okay, next time I'm going to do this different. Next time I do this different, this different, this different. And then you think, all right, I've got it figured out enough. But in my experience, I didn't have it figured out enough. I needed to probably date, seriously be in way more relationships and be way more ready for things. I think it also came with age, not even relationship stuff. I think life experience, work experience, and time and age and confidence. I look back on who I was back then. I was just totally going along with the fucking flow, going with the tides, going with whatever the momentum of life is. Like, you go to school, you graduate, you get your job, you fuck around, you date, you find someone, you move in, you get married, you have kids. And I was just like, I'm a normal ass dude. I'm going to do things the normal way. And unfortunately, like, it took me doing that and recognizing I wasn't normal. My job wasn't normal. Some of my personal beliefs may not be normal. All of that shit, to know, like, this is not going to last for me. You know, I look at like my brother, my father, other guys in my family and friends, and the way their relationships go and the way they act. And I was kind of like, I wish I could do that. I wish I was more like you, but I can't take this. It's not going to work, you know? So that's how I end up where I'm at now. And it took going through those experiences to learn that. And I think now my generation is the last one that will just go with that flow because we're quote unquote supposed to, or because your parents did it and their parents did. And that's just the way life goes. Part of me very much is a traditionalist where I do believe in those things. It's like, shut the fuck up, get your job, do your work, pay your bills, try to have some fun before you're dead, right? But part of me also is like, you know, I broke out of the traditional job and I went and did this kind of alternative thing, and it's really worked out. Financially, it will be the best decision I ever made. Personally, romantically, not. But certain things worked out, certain things didn't work out. And so I was like, oh, maybe I am a little more non-traditional than I thought I was. And I think in learning to learning about myself, I realized there's a lot of things that I think not so traditionally on. And I think that the generation before me, or after me, I guess, I think will be the first one that already has that kind of understanding. Maybe because there's more people like me having those kids and passing that, my experiences down. But I think what I see in the younger people and then like the whole entire generation after me, I keep flying that up, after me, I think will be the first one to be like, I don't have to get married, and I certainly don't have to have kids. And I think that's a much healthier, happier way to go through life. Like, you do have to get a job because you have to pay bills. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be in corporate America. Nowadays, there's less barriers of entry and more opportunity out there to do it however which way you want to. So you can go get a job and let it be the one you want. It doesn't have to be 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You can get creative and weird and alternative in your professional life. And it also lends itself to the same thing romantically and socially, where it's like, I'm not just going to date, I'm not just going to be in a hetero relationship where we date for a while and then we move in and we get married and we have kids all from 28 to 30 to 32 and then that's how we live. We move to the suburbs. We get a house. That's another thing. I just thought, like, you party in the city and you get out. I talked about that a couple weeks ago on the podcast. Like, you rent an apartment, but then you have to buy a house when you're older. For me, buying a house and moving to the suburbs was the worst decision we ever made as a couple. We were city people. We were fun people. We like to go out. We like to be in the city where we could do these things at the drop of a hat. And we moved to the suburbs. We spent all of our money. We got a house that sucked. It needed a ton of work. And we're not that type of people. Like, my parents bought shitty homes and put sweat equity in, grinded it out for hours to make it better, to then sell it. And that was they did that. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's awesome. They bought this, they flipped it, they made money, they had long-term investments that covered, they had the rent from these apartments paying the mortgage from their house, and they were making money for their kids. And I was like, this is amazing, let's do this. And it turned out, nope, not for me. I want to rent somewhere where there's a super to take care of everything, because I'm not very handy like my dad was. And I want to be able to just pay somebody to fix some shit, and I don't need to own it, and I don't need the backyard, and I don't need all the space. And I want to just be able to live a fun, interesting, intriguing city life. We probably should have stayed there for a few more years while our kids were younger before we had to make that death march to the city, to the suburbs. And I just think that the generation that's next is going to be like, I don't have to buy a house. I don't have to go to the suburbs. I don't have to work this shitty job. I don't have to get married. And I certainly don't have to have kids. Because the reality of kids they are a blast. There's a level of happiness that, it sounds corny and cliche, but there's just this feeling of happiness that you get a kick out of having your own kid. Like, the feeling of owning a puppy, when people say having a puppy is like having a kid, like, no, it's fucking not. But think about the feeling when you have a little puppy and it's your puppy and you have cute moments. When you take out your phone and you film everything your puppy does, because it's cute when they roll over and it's funny when they fall down the stairs and they play in the snow and they do all that shit. When your kids do that and it's yours and you created it and they love you and they like need you and you have that connection with them, it's that times a quadrillion, right? And there is this feeling of like, this is my little thing, and I love it and it loves me back. And there's this bond that you can't describe or replicate anywhere, right? All that said, it ain't fun. Having kids is not fun. Not by normal adult standards. What's fun for an adult is going out to dinner and eating fine food and drinking fancy cocktails and wine and meeting new people and interacting with them or being single and fucking new people and dating new people and traveling around the world and experiencing things and being able to do spontaneous shit. At the drop of a hat, you can go. You can quit the job and move. You can go to the game. You can go to the fucking moon. You can do all of it whenever you want, or you can do none of it. What's fun when you're an adult is laying on the fucking couch for 36 hours on the weekend doing absolutely nothing simply because you want to. That's fun. That's what's fun when you're an adult in control of your own life. You have a kid, all of that is gone. And I think there's some feeling of like, you're not living a fulfilled life. You're not living up to your your best self, and to me, maybe when you're on your deathbed, if you don't have someone to take care of you, that sucks. The people who like care about their life, their what's it called? Their like legacy. The people who care about their legacy or their surname, their namesake carrying on. Like, what is this, Game of Thrones? If I had all daughters and they didn't carry on the Clancy name, I wouldn't give a fuck. What are we talking about? Like I'm some sort of like royalty that needs to have a firstborn son to carry on the Clancy name? Who gives a fuck? What are you talking about? We're all just regular people living on this fucking ball of dirt, traveling through the planet, that's traveling through space, going 800,000 million miles an hour until we're dead. Who cares what your last name is? Names are just made up bullshit. And your legacy and your like, you know, your all that shit. What? No, who gives a shit about that? It's about enjoying your life while you're here. And the idea that like, you know, you're having a kid is living life to the fullest. Well, I'll be honest. You give up your basically your late 20s, all of your 30s, and a lot of your 40s, and maybe even some of your 50s to raise your kids. And then when you're like 60 and they've moved out and they're on their own, now is the time, olden years, over years, that you can now travel the world. Think about it. Everybody, when they have like empty nest or they retire, what do? If they're lucky and they have money and they're still able to, they travel. And that's the thing that you can do when you don't have kids. So if you don't have kids, you can do all that same shit. It's like you give up yourself, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, for these kids, and then to come back around when you're 60. And the people, and I'm going to do that, and I'm okay with that. And like I said, I love my 2 kids, and I'm very happy to make that. I'm not happy to make that sacrifice. Let me amend that. I'm willing to make that sacrifice, because at the end of the day, I aged out of partying and going out, and I wasn't much of a traveler, and I'm not very spontaneous, and so I'm a good candidate to have kids. But if you're not, if you're a person who is very career-driven and needs to work 100-hour weeks and is very worldly and wants to see every fucking corner of this earth, is very spontaneous and likes to just do shit on a whim, is very promiscuous and single and likes to fuck and date around and not settle down. If you're a person that just doesn't enjoy being around children, if you're a person that feels like you're not financially able to take care of the kids, if you're a person that feels you're not emotionally able to take care of a kid, if you, God forbid, have something genetically or physically wrong with you and don't want to deal with potentially passing that on to a kid or whatever your reason may be for not having kids, that's entirely valid. I can't believe that the most difficult thing that you will do in this world is become a parent and raise a child. And there are people that say like, I don't think that's for me. And it's like frowned upon. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, I mean that this is the hardest fucking thing to do in the world. And I have the self-awareness to know that maybe I'm not the best, most suited for that job. And people look at you like, ooh, wow, you're like lacking some sort of, instincts as a father or a mother. Like, fuck you. Just because you're a weirdo and wants to procreate and give up, decades of your life, and I'm not willing to do that, doesn't mean that I'm lesser than or not fulfilling my role as a human. Fuck you, Pope. Fuck all those judgmental people saying that shit. Give me a break, man. So anyway, that's my thought about Rico Bosco, the Pope, and having kids. I don't know how those all tied together, but shit, they did. Before I started the show, I was like, have you guys, when I first started this series, this franchise, I was like, we'll do a lot of like conspiracy theory talks and a lot of weird fringe sciencey talks. And it's been a long time since I've done any of that. So I said to these guys, seen it recently in the news that's worthwhile. And Jackie just goes, have you thought about glitches? I was like, what? She's like, yeah, glitches. And it sounds like you've been like writing down glitches?
No.
What is that?
No.
You have like a log?
No, on
you
TikTok.
Keep of glitches?
No, on TikTok.
Oh, TikTok. Okay.
It's glitch talk. And
glitch talk on TikTok.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Like my whole TikTok feed. And but it's really like, okay, so I was saying one. Should I just like say some of the cool ones?
Yes. Explain to the people what glitches are.
Well, so I mean, it's like glitches in the Matrix kind of glitches.
So like when some funky weird shit happens in the world, there's actually like, it's because there's something wrong with the simulation. Something broke on the computer system that we are the simulation that we're living in, something has gone awry.
Yes, like the whole
Such as
basis is like I don't know, like there's multiple universes and
Right.
somehow like it rips a hole and whatever.
Yep.
So, like, one of the-
Wires get crossed, something skips a beat, something's broken, right, glitches.
So like the one that I was telling you guys was this girl and her sister were getting food and it was like a place 10 minutes away. So she orders, like they're like it's gonna be ready in 15 minutes, waits 5 minutes, and then drives 10-minute drive, ends up at the restaurant, grabs the food, about to get back in her car, and her sister calls and is like, "Where are you?" And she was like, I'm coming back. Like I just got here. And she was like, "You've been gone for 3 hours." She checks the time. She was gone for 3 hours, or like the time was 3 hours ahead, but she was like, the only thing that she had done was driven and gotten there. And so she was like, there's no way that happened. And they like went back and like they were trying to figure it out. Still haven't figured it out. And then there were like a bunch of other comments and that being like, this happened to me. Like there's a bunch of different people who like have had the same thing. Like,
So like lost time.
yes, lost time. And then there was this other one and this girl, so she was like sitting up in her room and she like heard her parent. I don't know any of like I don't know if I should be like giving the TikTokers names. I don't know them, but she was sitting up in her room and like her mom and her stepdad like come back from dinner. Like they were at dinner and they come back. She like goes, says hi to them. And then the dad's like, "Do you want to go in the garage?" to the mom. And the mom's like, "Yeah, sure." She was like, "It's kind of weird, but like whatever." So then they go in the garage and like she goes back up to her room and then she's like, "Where like have they been?" And then she goes and is like calling for them. They're not home. Goes to the garage. Nobody, like the lights are off or everything. So then she calls and she was like, "Where are you guys? Like, did you guys leave and go back?" And they were like, "What do you mean? Like, we've been here the whole time." Or we were like at dinner this whole time. And then she was like, she didn't say anything. And then they come back and that exact same thing happens. Which is interesting because
Like the conversation happens again?
the conversation happens. They go in the garage. I forget why. They were like, they're getting something from the garage. And that exact thing happens. And then there was a bunch of other comments that,
So wait, just to recap that. She has a conversation with her husband and he's like, "Come into the garage."
well, this is the daughter and she witnesses this conversation between her mom and stepdad.
Okay.
The stepdad's like, "Do you want to go in the garage?"
Right.
For some reason, she couldn't really like figure out why
Okay.
or something. I don't think that's important.
So
And
then
then-
she goes into the garage.
The stepmom and the mom and the stepdad go into the garage and then she like doesn't go in the garage and then she didn't ever hear them come back. And so she was like, "What are they doing in the garage?" Goes like checks the garage and then like checks the whole house
They're not there.
and they're not there. Calls them and whatever.
So she witnessed them have that conversation, but they were at dinner that whole time.
Yes.
And then they come home and they do that same conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's like when I had deja vu the other day on
Yes.
some people believe that deja vu is like a glitch in the Matrix. And I swear to God, man, John was sitting there. We had some guest on the show, I think, or maybe not. I don't know, but he was talking about Lady Gaga and saying something in French or whatever. And in that moment, to my core, in my bones, I could have sworn that we did that before. I had that conversation with John, and there was something in the news about Lady Gaga and something in French. And what was wild is I got a email from someone, I think on the Kevin Clancy show, or a tweet that was like, "I had deja vu at same moment." And that freaked me out because like so the idea of deja vu is, you think this has already happened and something is triggering in your brain. And some people believe that's where this simulation that we live in, the fabric of the universe or the timeline that we're on, just skipped a beat like a CD skipping and your timeline got out of whack and you kind of did experience it again and then got back on course. Or a bigger, more nefarious thing like someone's running this and they fucked up for a second and let you in on the secret that you're not even controlling your own life, that this is already a set path for you of something that you've already experienced. But that's all, I also don't, I'm sure there's just a scientific explanation, but when someone else tells you that they had deja vu, in the same exact moment, that's fucking weird.
Wait, was it in the moment that they were listening to the
Yeah,
podcast?
like I wish I could remember. I meant to fucking screenshot it. I think it might have been an Instagram DM, but they were like, dude, I had the same deja vu. And I think he was saying like and I don't know what, fuck, I should have followed up. Because it was like, are you meaning that you've heard me have this conversation? That's your deja vu? Or you're having deja vu that you heard John say that already, or you had deja vu that something with Lady Gaga like this did happen. You remember what I was talking about with Lady Gaga. But when two people are having it at the same time, then I start to get all freaked out. But, you know, there
was one time when I was younger, and like I always like put it off, or like I always like dismiss it, because I was like, hey, like the older I got, the more I dismissed it. But then when I was watching like the glitch talks, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But so when I was like 7, 8 or something, I went with my family in Atlanta and we visited like the Coca-Cola factory or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I went there and I realized like I'd seen it all before. And like a few nights before, I'd had that exact dream of like, and again, like now that I say it back, like I don't believe it, but like this, I was
you dreamt the Coca-Cola.
I dreamt the exact thing. Like
Yeah.
there was one moment where I was like, oh, like my uncle's about to like point out something in the window here.
It happened.
And then that exact same thing happened. I was like trying to tell people and like nobody, like everyone's like, oh, deja vu.
Yeah.
But it was like the whole thing. And I was so
In the
positive I had
moment
the
you
dream.
said like, you're feeling it?
I think I said something and because I remember something, like now it's all blurry, but I remember like it being dismissed. I think I said something after the fact, but then I remember like.
Well, that's where like, you're never going to know what's in the moment. You're never going to know if these things are going to matter, but it's almost like you wish you wrote everything down or had everything documented, because also what's going on here is like, I think the idea of human memories fuck me up big time, because certain things can be by other people, right? Where you're just like, you remember that time we were hanging out and like you fell down the stairs? Like you're there. That second person is there to be like, no, that's not what happened. Like he fell down the stairs, something like that. But if it's just you having a memory about your life, there's really no way to know if that's real or not. Your brain, like, we all know people who make up stories, right? Like I have family members that the joke is how much they embellish and fabricate and lie. But when they're telling us those same stories, you can tell by their expression and by their excitement, they fucking mean it. In their mind, in their world, that shit happened, right? And I'm laughing because, these family members will tell stories about like, then they got in a fight and they punched them. And then, we sped off in the car and the cops, you know what I mean? Like things that are just like, no, dude, that's not, you're not in the Fast and the Furious. That didn't happen. But to them, put a lie detector on them. I think they 100%, they're not like, oh, I'm going to lie to look cool and I hope they believe me. They are just retelling a story, recalling their version, and they really believe it happened that way. Now that's silly because, like I said, these details are so absurd. But what about normal memories that I have about myself and about my life? Like, who's to say I'm not making those memories up? Again, when there's someone to corroborate or tell you yes or no, yes, I had the exact same memory, then, that's how it happened. But when you're recalling things from, 20 fucking 35 years ago, there's really no way. And then it's like you wake up every day. It's like you could almost be like waking up every day and they could be giving you new memories, like whoever's running the show. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't even know it. Like I wouldn't imagine if today I have these feelings of like what I did as a kid and who I was and where I came from and all that. And what if tomorrow they wiped that clean and gave me a whole new set of memories and I just think this is the new memory this time?
I
know
think
what I
it's
mean?
really weird that like, it's like, okay, a dream. Like you don't know how you get there. Like everybody says this, but you don't know how you get there. You don't know how you leave, but you just remember like bits and pieces.
And then when you have recurring dreams too.
Also, here's my new other theory is like, is like I like what if like we're like the own, I mean it's just you and like you're the own like architect of your, like sometimes when I'm really tired, for example, like I'll see a lot of construction, I always just think it's like my brain like maybe being like too lazy to like build the world around me or something like that. Or like sometimes when I'm like really like anxious, I'll see a bunch of like homeless people. I'm like, what if it's just like
fabricating it
and projecting onto the world. And then like everything that you see is just like, cause like you make up like every single scenario.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, I feel like I'm pretty, very, very real and solid and sane. I really do. I think that. So I don't think that I'm like fabricating everything, but I think there's like levels to it. And it's like, you know, your brain might be a little more triggered or like experiential or experimental. And then someone else's, you know, like because of things like dreams, like at some point your brain turns off while still running and fabricates a whole world that in that moment feels like you've lived it your whole life, you know? Where you're like, oh, I mean, I was married, but it wasn't to you, it was to someone else. But it like in that dream, you felt like you knew that person their whole life. And it's like if your brain can do that while you're asleep, and we just and we just take it as like, yeah, you were having a dream, no big deal, because nothing happens. You're asleep, you wake up, then it just goes away. But why can't it do it when you're awake?
Yeah.
And when they say like, you know, we only use like 10% of our brains, like, well, what if you use 15%, 20%, 30%? And these other percentages are things that are more tangible, you know? It's like you use your brain and it's all happening in between here. But what if when you access other parts of your brain, it's more out here where you're starting to see things? You know when people talk like the way you see, what do you see? You see the alphabet or something like that?
The like numbers with
you see numbers in a certain way?
Numbers with personalities?
Yeah, I guess it's more like that. Like my mom and my sister, when they think about the months of the calendar, they see it in like this swirling thing. It goes January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and they have this shape in their head. When I think of a calendar, when I think of the days of the week, I see boxes like on a calendar, but it goes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then there's a box on top of Saturday, that's Sunday. And then that goes. And then there's a box on top of there, and that goes. So it's like steps. And that's just like in my head, but that's your mind like making something visual that is supposed to be intangible, right? But why can't that become like literally visual at some point?
Wait, also, so your mom, sorry, but your mom sees everything's in like lines.
And yeah, so
right?
my mom will look at like the door, there's a line, then the actual door itself, like there's where the hinges are, the crease, that's a line, and the door itself is a space. Then there's another line, then that bit of the wall is a space, and she just looks around line space, the shelves, the walls, the TV.
Because that's like binary. So it's like if we were all just like a simulation, like it's interesting because like that's like the basis of every code. Like what if she just has some sort of like split in her brain?
And you wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know it.
And that, I mean, that's where I also just think that people who are like philosophers or people who think more. I mean, can you imagine the first guys who really sat there and were like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are we here? What is this about? And that's why religion exists and God exists, because it's like, we just need to make up a story where this guy put us here, because why else would this even fucking happen? Like right now, they're putting this telescope into space, the James Webb Space Telescope. It's 100 times more powerful and bigger and more, advanced than the Hubble telescope, which is, my entire life about the, like it, that is that shit. The Hubble telescope is that shit. NASA did the damn thing. They put the telescope up there. They saw the Milky Way. They opened it up. They learned everything. This dude, James Webb telescope, is blowing it out of the water. The mirrors that are involved in this are like twice as big and 100 times more advanced than the Hubble telescope. The Hubble, they said, can see light from 13 billion years ago. And this thing, the James Webb telescope, is, like I said, 100 times greater than that. And it can do so. And this is where it started to trip me out about things that are visible and invisible, because it was explaining that this telescope can see light differently. So when we see things, and not to get too nerdy, but I think most people understand this. When you see things, it's because of light. And the way light is like a wavelength, right? And I don't really quite understand what that means, but you understand the concept of the reason we can see things is because of the way light hits our eyes, right? And that light has a certain wavelength. Really, really old shit emits very flat waves. And when wavelengths get too flat, they lose their visibility. And I know, I'm sure there's science people who are gonna be like, you're explaining this wrong. But the basic premise is long wavelengths become invisible to these telescopes and to our vision and all that shit. Well, this telescope can pick up these long spread out wavelengths. So there are stars and galaxies and shit. The Hubble telescope is looking at everything, and it can only see things based on certain wavelength, and the rest of it is just invisible. Like a concept that we joke around about as superpowers or whatever, invisible, is actually happening right now in front of us. It's just that it has to do with wavelengths. So right now we know about this galaxy and that galaxy, and there's a million other, and we have it all plotted out, right? And now we're gonna have this new telescope that we've launched out. We launched it on December 21st, and in the next 5 months, it's gonna start relaying images back. And that's gonna be able to pick up other galaxies and other stars that we just didn't see before. They were invisible to us until we had the technology and the understanding to quote unquote see it. It's like it was there the whole time. We just didn't know it because we were unable to see. So seeing something becomes this entirely abstract notion. And why can't that be going on in the world right now, where it's like, maybe that conversation that girl had, she did see it, quote unquote, because her brain and her eyes were working on some different wavelength. I don't fucking know. And when you start to understand the idea of time and light and relativity, it's like, well, you know, maybe that the timeline, she saw what happened on the timeline first because of some physical glitch. All these things that we take to know as like scientific, like absolutes. When you put a fucking telescope out there that is, they said it's like the greatest human engineering feat of all time. This thing they created is the greatest thing that has ever been built, essentially. And the way they launched it, they needed like 5 different mirrors to operate the right way as it shot into orbit, and it needs to align perfectly with the sun and the moon and the planet Earth in order to have the right orbit so that it doesn't use too much fuel. And apparently like all these things happened. So they needed an incredible amount of luck to line up with the greatest engineering feat of all time. And it looks like it happened. And now we're going to be able to view things that happened like during the Big Bang, because that light is only reaching us for the first time. And it just, it sounds like we're going to learn, you know, potentially if they call them exoplanets. These are planets that we couldn't see, but now because of the shift in the infrared, like light, we'll now be able to see. And it's almost like, it is kind of like the Matrix. It's like, you have this world over here that you live in, but according to certain other like sciences and things going on, there's all this other shit too. And we got this telescope that's going to unveil some of it. We're going to find out if there's planets that can be inhabitable or if there's other life out there, and things that we thought were, you know, the Big Bang did this. Well, it turns out, nope, we were wrong and it did that. And, you know, I try to think too, it's like there were things that they believed scientifically to be 100% a fact at a certain point in time. And then we found out to be laughably untrue. Like the smartest men of their time were like, you know, the world is flat. And they weren't called stupid. Those people were considered smart until somebody who was that much more advanced and that much more special, there was or maybe because they could see things or whatever, or touched by a fucking alien or a being or whatever, those people proved that to be wrong. And now we laugh at that shit. Well, something going on right now, scientifically, we believe to be 100% true, and we say anything to the contrary is stupid, is dumb and laughable. Something is going to be proven wrong, because that's just the way it goes. There's no way that we know everything. So right now, something as big and as incorrect as the Earth is flat is going on in the world of science, and maybe this telescope is the one that proves it true or wrong, proves it true or false. And we have to just rethink everything that we once knew. So when we laugh at things like glitches or deja vu or, time travel or whatever, like they said that this telescope, because it's viewing light from such a different wavelength and so far away, it's essentially a time travel device because we're going to be seeing light from the past. So technically time travel becomes true, becomes real because of science and because of people who are so much smarter than you. Like the thought of these scientists, trust the science and believe in the science has been a big thing everyone's saying about COVID and all that shit. Those sort of scientists are fucking morons compared to these engineering scientists we're talking about who are able to build this thing. Think about it. It's like huge and made of like glass or I don't even know. I shouldn't even say glass, but I'm thinking of these mirrors and windows and refractors and these moving parts that all have to combine and coalesce and launch and land in the fucking right spot in outer space. And they just do it. They just got it right. It's like how, and like, what do you do for a living? You're the asshole at Deloitte who can do the Alt ESV quickly. I never even finished that story on that guy who I fucking hate from Deloitte, but I'll tell you really quickly. One time this one guy got laid off. This was the most inappropriate, insulting thing I've ever seen in my life. And I just watched a coworker throw a can at someone's head. We were going through layoffs because of the recession in like the late 2000s, 2008, 9. And this guy who was young, mad young, he was like 25 and he already had a wife and I think a kid and he got laid off. And he had to do like the actual movie Hollywood, here's your cardboard box, pack your fucking desk up. We didn't even have your own desk at that point. We were so young and new and stupid. They were putting us on beer pong tables. They had beer pong tables lined up in between the cubes and you were just sitting at your spot on a beer pong table. And then eventually, if you were there long enough, you got to move to a cube. So it wasn't even cube life. It was beer pong table life. It was before that. And this guy had a kid and a wife and he gets laid off and he's walking over and he's putting all his shit in the box. And this fucking asshole, Brett, starts doing the funeral music. He starts going, dun, 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 like the Undertaker, like death march music. Well, this guy, he was like packing his shit up, like looking at him like, are you fucking serious? Well, he had to walk down the aisle in front of all of us because he just got laid off and like now can't afford to feed his kid. And that dude was just like, I wanted to take a fucking bottle of High Noon and throw it at his face. But I couldn't because it wasn't invented yet and time travel's not possible. Or is it? Will one day I get the chance to throw a High Noon at that kid's face because there's a glitch and I get to go back in time? Could happen because of the James Webb telescope. I'm just saying. It's all possible. This telescope is so legit, so powerful, and so far beyond anything we've ever invented or done and used in space that NASA got together 24 theologians and philosophers to talk about how they think the human race will react if we find the existence of aliens. Now, that could just be we're interested in this, we're NASA is scientists and researchers and they have a thirst for knowledge and they want to continue to grow and expand and learn. It could also be like, we're about to see outer reaches of the galaxy and universe and existence, and we think we might find some shit. And we gotta be prepared if we do find some shit. I don't think you just get together a panel of 24 theologians and say, we need to find out exactly how you think the world will react if we tell them there are aliens. Because if you're asking me, we've had all of these, think about the last like 10 years or so, with all of the footage from fucking Blink-182, where we learned about the Tic-Tac UFOs, and the government declassifying all the UFO stuff and admitting that we have materials from other planets, or we have materials not of this world, and all of these things that seem to be, I've been yelling about it on this show for a couple of years, saying, how come no one is talking about this? We have the Navy and the government and people admitting that there are UFOs and saying that we have materials not of this planet and saying that there's probably life out there. And now we launch this piece of equipment that is going to allow us to get the shot in human history until this moment right now, the best shot we've ever had of seeing potential planets that could host life or life itself. And we're asking people to find out, what's it going to be like when this pops off? Because I think they think it's about to pop off. I think these guys are like, we've built such a fucking incredible device that before we do this, we better be smart and we better be prudent. Let's sit down and talk with philosophers and theologists and people who know humankind and the Bible and religion. And let's ask, what do you think is going to happen? I hope they also got a panel of like 24 theologists. God bless you. I'm hoping we're talking about more modern theologists, because the real religious snakes, if you're just talking to the fucking Pope, the same one who's out here just saying you're not allowed to have cats and dogs and that you should be having kids, those motherfuckers are going to say whatever they need to say to continue to line their pockets with people donating money to their cause. They're going to spin their story to be like, well, God invented all of this. God invented those planets too. And the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve they were spun off of those people too. They're going to keep their story going no matter what. I would like to know what professors, theologists, scientists, atheists, economists, all of that. Anybody who has studied, anthropology and philosophy and psychology, all that shit. When we deliver the news that we discovered with our brand new fucking toy, that yes, people live out there, it's gonna change everything. And like I said, they'll try to spin it, but it can be like, the stories in the Bible, fucking wrong. And the timelines we had and the science behind it, fucking wrong. Everything was wrong. So all of your motivations in life and all of the codes you lived by and all of the rules you lived by and the reasons why you did things and all that could all technically be jeopardized or changed or thrown into a whole fucking blender because we found out that it's not just about this. Or vice versa, even weirder, we can look at this and be like, well, we just took a good look at the whole fucking universe and there really isn't anything out there. So we really are. I think that's worse. I think what's crazier than finding life is confirming there is no other life. Because then it means that this one little spot in this infinite sea is the only place that are these beings with brains and hearts and souls and minds and experiences and relationships. And, that to me is crazy. When you're sitting here worried about your girlfriend or boyfriend or your sports team or the person you voted for or your sex life or your work life or your friends or all the silly things, your fashion, that you worry about what you look like, all of these things. We're the only fucking ones. Why? How? What? If that telescope can't find one other thing out there, then I actually think it kind of, I don't know, that to me almost confirms religion, where it's like, nah, man, there's just some higher power who just made this one little fucking thing. Because science would have somebody else, something else out there. But I guess that's why they got this panel together to discuss it, because they want to be ready, because they've never done anything like this fucking before. That's what we're talking about with this telescope. Let's get into our questions for today. Much more real and tangible, don't worry. If you don't like the abstract, we're going to get into the real shit right now. It is 7 o'clock right now. I'm sorry, guys. You got to get the fuck out of here. Today's questions are brought to you by Wood, which is the new Barstool grooming line. They've got products, everything a guy needs to be clean, smell good, have good skin, have good hair, have healthy everything. And the little secret is that we have partnered up with the real fucking deal. A lot of times people are like, why would I buy my clothes from a sports blog? And then you find out that the guy that I'm working with partners with Kanye West to make Yeezy boots and Yeezy shoes and clothes. The biggest fucking thing in fashion, right? Or it's, why would I buy my boots from Barstool? And you find out that we're working with like one of the premier leather making working boot companies on the internet, because we always find the real shit to help people, to make sure that we're bringing like good products, right? That's what we did here with Wood. We're working with Mario Badusky, I don't even know. All the girls know his name. What is it, Jackie? Do you know his name? You're not there yet because you're young and broke.
No.
But the girls know. And actually, it is like a little tip for the women out there. If you buy all the face washes and the creams and shit, we're probably going to have a lower price point because we are Barstool, so you don't get jacked up by all the women's beauty products, but you're going to get the same quality. All fragrance free, so it's not like you just smell like a guy or whatever. We are talking high quality face washes, lotions, creams. They have aftershave and shaving cream for your face. They got the beard oil. They've got everything you need for the bathroom products, for the shower, for the sink, for your skin, for your body. It's all Barstool Wood. We've designed it all. It's going to be in CVS. You can order it online as well, but it's going to be at your local pharmacies where you can scoop up all the products you need. So check it out. Barstool Wood has arrived. Me and John have always been the guys. We're doing face masks. I'm worried. I'm always putting serum on my eyes. I'm worried about my skin and my hair and my looks. And finally, we have our own line for you guys. So you know that normal, like-minded dudes who are, if you're comfortable with yourself and you're admitting it, you want to make sure you look good. You want to make sure you stay young. You want to make sure you stay have your hair and all that shit. Well, we finally got in bed with the right people who designed the whole line so that you can still look your best. So check it out, Barstool Wood. You can order it online in the Barstool store or check it out in CVS. A couple questions here. There's a couple doozies here. I can't believe it's already 7 o'clock. Jeez. We'll begin with this. This one sounds like the plot of like a Harlan Coben book or a fucking Netflix series, or maybe like a Jerry Springer episode is really what I should say. Okay. Boys, I've lost my best friend and girlfriend. I thought at first that meant like my girlfriend is my best friend. No. He's talking about both of them. So I've been in a relationship with this girl I met in college for about 5 years now. We were introduced by a mutual friend who's an important character that I met through frat life, and she knew him from their hometown, and everybody immediately hit it off. We met each other's family and friends. They start dating. During the height of the pandemic, in the fall, winter of 2020, she began to really miss her family. This caused a massive strain on the relationship. After much discussion, we decided it would be best if she went back to Chicago for a few weeks to be with her family and allow both of us to decompress. It was by no means a breakup. We still communicated every day. Not a breakup, but still a little weird. And the pandemic is an X factor. But anytime you're in a relationship and you're feeling tremendous stress, and one of the answers to make it better is that you separate, not a great sign. So just put a pin in that, put a red flag there. About 2 weeks into her being home, I get a text from the kid who helped set us up. He told me that while he was at the house of an old friend from high school, he saw my then girlfriend hooking up with an old fling, because they're all back at the same hometown. Now, I trust this kid. I've known him for my first few days at college. We've been through it all together. So I reacted brashly. I download Tinder. I start swiping right on anything that somewhat resembles a female. Cut to about 3 hours later, I have a girl in my apartment. As one would guess, we do the deed. I felt so terrible. The next day, I call her and confess everything. Yikes. Probably shouldn't have done that. I say what my friend told me about seeing her, and I tell her about how I reacted upon hearing the news. Turns out this scumfuck lied to me about what she was doing in the hopes that I would do exactly what I went and did. She immediately broke up with me and said she would never be returning to the city. She requested I pack up her things and mail them back to her. She blocked me on every form of communication, and I recently found out that those two, the friend and now the ex-girlfriend, have begun dating. What the fuck do I do? It's been almost 18 months. I'm still madly in love with this girl. Cannot imagine life without her. Even the thought of being with another girl at this point just makes me miss her more. Any advice? I mean, a few things to unpack. Like I said, I think it's kind of shady that she moved home, and then at the end of this, all very quickly, those two are dating. I'm not going to go as far as to say this is some Bonnie and Clyde shit, and these two were in bed, in cahoots together, and we're like, I'll move home and we'll make up this lie and we'll try to drive a wedge between us and then we'll have a reason for us to break up and we can finally be together. And they just struck gold and this guy decided to fuck someone and confess it like right away. And she was like, God, this in one day as opposed to like a year. But it just seems weird to me. They always knew each other. She wanted to move home where he was. They immediately start dating. I don't know if she's in on it. Obviously, this dude is in on it. If it was his own, if he acted alone, if you will. I mean, just an all-time scumbag move to lie, break it up, and then swoop in and start dating her. An absolute garbage bag of a human. Probably you missed a bunch of signs along the way that guy totally fucking sucks. You also probably missed a bunch of signs along the way that your relationship wasn't as good as you thought. Because like I said, as soon as the going got tough, she was like, I need to go home. And I'm not saying, there's a lot of people in the pandemic who felt I need to be near my family and not the person I'm dating. I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. But again, when the first idea is to hightail it out of there, you probably weren't as sturdy as you thought. You immediately fucking someone like that night before you've even talked to her is a wild move. It is a wild boy move. Sometimes in life, you go crazy boy. You go wild boy, where you do something stupid, you do something wild. You hope that it's when you're young and single and disconnected, and you can do that and just wake up and go like, whoa, that was fucking crazy. I'm never doing that again. Unfortunately, when you do it in the situation that you have a relationship, you're dealing with guilt and you're dealing with the morals and what you should do and all that. Personally, shooting you straight, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, oh, I know that about you. I think when you do something like that, if it truly is like a one-time thing where there is no further repercussions, you're no longer connected, that won't be an issue ever again. If that's the case, like that girl is out of your life and will never be a problem for your relationship ever again, I say you take that one to the grave. It was the pandemic. Things got fucked up. You heard some bad news. You did something stupid. I think you need to work on some things for yourself. I think you need to make sure you become a better person. You make sure you don't do that kind of stuff again. But there's really no reason to go blow up this relationship, which, albeit I think had some red flags that you, like I said, you need to worry about. If things were generally good, you were together for 5 years, you both seemed happy, I don't think there's a reason to go throwing it all away for something that really can be chalked up to a one-time, albeit so stupid, mistake. But it's not like it's going to linger over your head or continue to affect the relationship. I don't think you need to do that. But if you feel guilty, a lot of times confessing something is about getting the guilt off of your chest. And I think a lot of times if it's going to cause that person a lot of hurt, I think you got to eat that guilt. And that's sometimes people think of that as like a circular way to not take responsibility for your own actions, where you're like, oh, I'm protecting them. But really, you have to deal with that guilt while they don't get their life blown up. I think in some cases, in some weird way, that's the mature move. Definitely the mature move would have been to talk about it. To say, yo, this dude said you were like hooking up with this guy. And she would have been like, nope, here, I can prove it. I was with my family the whole time and none of this happens. So the real moral of the story here is don't go just fucking someone the same night that you've heard some bad news about your girlfriend. As far as advice on this one, get over it, dude. There's no fixing this one. You don't even want the best friend anymore. He's out. This girl, when you've had a breach of trust like this, when you have cheated, when there's been a major breach of trust or complete downfall of the relationship, I am a firm believer of move on. And even if you don't want to, even if the person who you've hurt wants to stay together, I think sometimes you have to have the foresight to be like, this shit is irreparable beyond repair. Even if it's damage beyond repair, it's irreparable. Even if that person wants to stay together and they're forgiving you, sometimes you can say, I know you're not actually going to forgive me. I know this is going to linger. I know you're going to hold this over my head. You'll try to stay with me, but I'll always be in trouble. You'll never trust me again. You'll always be in the doghouse. You'll always be hounding me. You'll always be watching me. And it's done. This one is fucked. Sometimes you just got to know. And it sucks. It sucks because you're already struggling with it, but it's time to just say, fuck it. Got to move on. Some weird sex talk here. A little bit of a dilemma I was hoping you could help me shed some light on. I'm a 25 male in a relationship with a 26-year-old female. Girlfriend wants to exclusively get freaky where we watch each other masturbate beforehand. Well, I think it's hot. She likes going for 10 or 15 minutes to the point where she gets off and I'm right on the brink. So the instant I go inside of her, I turn into a literal 1 minute man. She's a great girl. I'm very happy overall in our relationship, but the sex situation is getting out of hand. Out of hand. What do I do? They work, but they can't work miracles. Love the show. You know, your girl wants to sit down and masturbate side by side with you. That's a good thing. That's some kinky, freaky shit. I think that is a good sign that you're going to have some healthy sex and like a robust sex life where it's going to start out as mutual masturbation. It's going to turn into this and turn into that. And you're going to get your freak on with this girl for long days to come. 15 minutes of masturbating is fucking insanity. And I know for girls it can be different, but for a guy to sit there and stroke it for 15 minutes? Now, that's what I suggest you got to get creative. Like, you crack it for a while and then you stop. You rub some other parts. You do some other things. You can't just be doing straight up and down for 15 minutes. Any guy's going to fucking come as soon as you start having sex. So you got to learn how to fake your masturbation a little bit. Because I also think you got to tell this girl, like, let's speed this shit up. Let's put it on the clock. Oh, here, you know what you do? You now come with your own thing. And you say, I want to introduce some porn into this while we do it. That way, you can be like, I've picked out a video. This is my favorite one. We're going to both masturbate to this. And you make sure the video is like 4 minutes long. And then that way, when it ends, you have a natural breaking point where you can say, now we're moving on to sex. Make sure she comes. Make sure the video is not long enough or not too long. When it finishes, you say, all right, we are done here. We're done with the hand stuff to ourselves. We're now going to begin on each other. Make a move. You're in a relationship. This is all consensual. She's down. You don't have to just sit there and jerk off and basically cuck yourself. You're getting cucked by like a ghost. Just finish up with the porn, do a little bit of freaky mutual masturbation, and then move on to the next thing. Take charge. Here's a mind bender for you. You ready for this one, Jackie? Mm-hmm. While we're thinking all philosophical and shit. Mm-hmm. You know Lightning McQueen from Cars?
Yep.
Does he buy car insurance or life insurance?
I don't know.
I think it depends on, I think he buys both. If Lightning McQueen gets like rear-ended and the back of his car is fucked up, I think his car is broken. If he gets like his head smashed and he's fucking dead, brain damage, that's his life. I don't think every part of Lightning McQueen is really alive. I think the front and some of the doors and shit, no, I mean, most of it's pretty alive.
It was a great question.
I think he buys life insurance because he is just a car. Technically, Lightning McQueen could like drive his car onto like another car and use that for transportation the way we use a car. So Lightning McQueen could have like a flatbed truck that carries cars that he would not need to buy car insurance for. But he himself, to insure him, but he's a car.
Why would he need a car? Why would he be?
I'm just saying he wouldn't need it, but I'm just saying like the same way we get into a car that takes us somewhere, he could do that theoretically. But at the end of the day, when he says, I need some insurance, they would say, like, well, what are you? He's a car. He's a living car, but he's a car. So he needs car insurance. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you're insured, if your car gets totaled, that car is dead. The same way.
I can see this fucking in your head.
Well, okay. I guess it depends. If Lightning McQueen gets in an accident to the point that he is totaled, he's dead, you need life insurance for like your kids, your next of kin, collect on that policy once you're dead. So I think he needs car insurance for like little things and life insurance for like if he gets totaled. But at the end of the day, it's just an insurance policy. It doesn't matter what we call it. As long as little Lightning McQueen kids can collect if he's gone, that's the only reason you need life insurance. So just get insurance. He just needs insurance. All right, last one here. Where was it? Okay, last question here. This is my favorite one. This is coming from Grisberg. He said, what year do you think social media was at its peak? I love this question. And I could go on for a whole episode about it. I won't, but there was a time where social media was like the greatest thing. I believe that Twitter is one of the greatest inventions of all time. And it is mind-blowing that they haven't monetized it correctly and that it's one of the last apps and that it's for old people and all that, because it is unfiltered access to the most famous and important people when they're at their lowest, when they're at their drunkest, when they're at their craziest. You're just going to see them fire off tweets and interact in a way that we had never seen as society. We only saw that through publicists and agents and managers, and now we finally got to see them when they're sitting on the toilet or they're alone in their bedroom or they're sitting in the living room and they can just fire off what they really fucking think without anybody reading it or changing it or stopping it. That to me is incredible, because what the world is about, the entire world to me is about interaction. This is why I don't feel the need to go places and be out and about. A couch Clancy is a thing, because sitting right here with this thing, I can interact with the most interesting people in the world. I could potentially interact with celebrities and famous people and important people that I never even knew before this moment. But because we have something in common or our paths crossed on this app, we now can interact. I can watch a show and interact with all the same people watching that show or game all at the same time. Life to me is all about relationships and interesting conversation and interaction. And that is what social media and particularly Twitter do better than anything. So to me, while it's also a cesspool and it's toxic and it's dangerous and it's a horrible invention, I also think when it's used at its best, it is the greatest. And really the downfall of it has been politics. And the downfall of politics has been Donald Trump and I'm not saying him personally, I'm saying him mobilizing and what's the right word? The way he has utilized social media in order to get elected, and he is like rallied like-minded people and kind of created this revolution and pit two sides against each other to get the vote. The way that they have manipulated and utilized social media is brilliant, but it also made social media a shitty place. It's given birth to Ruth Conda Forever tweets, but it also has made trolls and haters and violence, and everything is black and white. Fuck Rittenhouse, I hope he dies. No, he's a hero. All that kind of shit. I hate it. But there was a time before that, right before that, where social media was reaching its peak, but had not become politicized yet. That was the peak. There was a night, June of probably 2016. So maybe he had just been elected, but wasn't really taking over yet. It was Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I think, or the Western Conference Finals or something. And the Battle of the Bastards was going on Game of Thrones at the same time. And it was just like this pop culture phenomenon of television and sports and LeBron and Jon Snow. And it was like we're watching the greatest team of all time with the greatest show of all time at that point in time. And there was like people arguing about sports versus television. And we were watching, I think it was Battle of the Bastards, what's going to happen, while also watching, I want to say it was LeBron playing the Warriors. And it was this unbelievable mashup of everything in my life. I'm sure, that's, this question is very subjective, because if you don't like sports and TV, like that night meant nothing to you. But so many people do, and so many people were on there. And the memes that were flying and the highlights we were watching and the crossover that was happening and the arguments and the discussion back when it was still we're civil about it. I could say I wanted to watch Game of Thrones over the basketball game, and you would disagree with me, but you wouldn't call me a fucking, scumbag who deserves to die. That was great. There's always great moments in Black Twitter history. When Tiana Trump teased that she was going to make a sex tape with Brittany Renner, oh my God. The timeline was on fire. The jokes were grade A. And that's another thing. When Black Twitter gets going and the timeline starts popping, you see humor from random people that aren't professional comedians or entertainers or anything that is more funny than anything that Chappelle or Rock or Burr is putting out there. Random people, just right moment at the right time, lightning strikes their brain, a glitch in the matrix, and they have the funniest joke, the funniest comment on the biggest topic ever, and it gets recycled and sent all around the world, and you see that joke that some dude in fucking Africa made. Or we all get together, has Justine landed yet? When we got, the first time that somebody got canceled and their life got ruined. Or what the time when the couple, the black couple, took pictures in old Western stuff. They looked like they were wearing old Western gear. Oh man, that was great. Or the time the guy said like, if you come for me, I'm ready, and he had a picture of like an old musket gun. When that shit happens, or Twitter deadline days, and it's usually dependent upon Black Twitter really popping off. But if I could pinpoint a day, if I had to pick one day, it's like June 2016. That game, Battle of the Bastards, no politics, everyone connected, everyone knew how to use it, but it was still new enough that we weren't completely brainwashed and toxified. I don't know. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? We hadn't been fucked up by social media yet. That was the pinnacle. And it's been downhill ever since then. We'll never regain that. It's almost like chasing the high. You know, you do heroin for the first time and the high is so good, but you'll never get there again because your tolerance is too high and the shit you're getting is stepped on and you know it's bad, so you don't have the same mindset anymore. You'll never have that pure Twitter moment that we did in June of 16, before Trump really ruined it, before we knew that social media was going to ruin our brains. We were just arguing basketball and thrones and memes and jokes, and life was good and simple. And if I could get a glitch or a fucking time machine or look in a telescope and see a moment again, it would be me that night in Hoboken, New Jersey, enjoying that on my fucking iPhone like 7. Take me back to that life. See you guys next week. All right, we got to get to 100,000. I want that 100,000
subscribers.
We've got a goal for all you out there, for everybody. At 100,000 subscribers, Polly Feidelberg will join us on the show. Maybe. Well, if not, we'll probably have to trick her into it. But at 100K, you will get Polly content. So subscribe, click the bell icon so you get notifications so that you're always watching. Leave a comment below. Talk about it. Post about it. Spread word. Tell your friends. 100,000 subscribers on KFC Radio for Polly Feidelberg. Let's make it happen.